preacher, so I like a microphone in my hand. It's easier. I've been an officer for over 20 years. I know, you wouldn't think it, I look that young, but, you know, I am that old. And one thing that's for certain is that things are always changing. I know that when I first started, we weren't even online. We didn't even have internet. And my kids cannot believe that there was a time before internet, but there was. I'm sure you feel that might have been possible. But this year in particular, for me, has been a very steep learning curve. I'm not sure if you've noticed that as well, that this year we've gone from doing church normal to almost becoming televangelists, aren't we? On TV, pretty much online doing church. The skills that we've had to learn to just keep connected with our people has been very interesting, and I'm pretty sure that's for all of us. We've all had to put ourselves into areas that we haven't been in, even not in the church area, but in the office space of working from home and having to Zoom meeting or Teams or whatever we do to keep in touch. Now, many years ago, Peter Davey from Bonnells Bay, shout out to him, he talked to Andrew and I about corporate pain, and it's something that we were very intrigued about, being in the Salvation Army, and we haven't really left the area since. So we've watched a lot of the movements that happen around the Newcastle Central Coast area for the past 20-something years, and the corporate pain is there, and it's something that we are very tuned into, seeing how can we help the corporate pain, how can we help our people move forward in that. So life changes. Some changes are good. Having a baby's a good change, but then all of a sudden you've got to get used to staying up at night and being tired, and not being up to date with your laundry or whatever else. And some changes aren't so easy to get onto. My kids, we've got an old bommy car, like our second car, and it's an older car. And one of my children just last week talked to the other one about wheel the window. I went, what are you talking about? And they'd made up their own language, because in our car that we use mostly, you push a button and the window goes up or down. You open and shut the window. So our language has changed because our cars now have windows that are button operated instead of wheeling the window. I said, that's ridiculous, you wind windows. And they're like, no, you wheel it. All right, my children are weird. Okay. Aren't we glad we've moved from the windows that you had to wheel to ones that you can hold your coffee cup at the same time and get up and down? So change happens all the time. The transition is our response to the change. So the internal processing we need to go through to come to terms with the new structure. There's a guy called William Bridges, wrote a great book on transition, and it's just brilliant. And this really helped us many years ago when we left our first corps. We'd been there a very long time, and we wanted it to be a place where people would not be too hurt or damaged because we left. We did a lot of work on that. So I've got some notes. You're welcome to take them if you want. You don't have to, I'm not going to be offended. But it was helpful for us, and that's probably what I want to share a bit today. The tools that we use that were helpful for us in leading our people through the transition. So it's not the change this does us in, it's the transitions. Interesting statement from William Bridges. It's not the change that does us in, it's the transitions. And we need to work through our personal reaction to the change. So if you thought about right now, all the changes that you've been in just in the past year, let alone the past 5 years that we've been going through in the Salvation Army, just in the past 12 months, what does it look like for you? It's massive. Absolutely massive. And if I asked you all individually, what has change been like for you, you would all have a different way of expressing it, because we've all experienced it differently. We've all had our own organisational change, our own individual context changes, as well as our own personal changes that we've had to go through. Our experience is unique, but the process we need to go through is similar. There's a diagram that William Bridges put puts in his book, and it's called the Managing Transitions of 3 Phases. And, you know, I'm so organised I had a PowerPoint not. So what it's like is a massive pothole that's along your road. And so if you're coming along the road doing your productivity as normal, you're driving along, and then all of a sudden a change happens and you hit a pothole. Now it's in that's in there, that's your transition and how we go through it. Now we all go through the pothole. But it's what we do in that pothole that makes a difference how we come out the other side. So the first part of the pothole is something's changed. There's an ending there. That's where our grief and our loss and all of that stuff plays into it. That's where we notice that we're sad, we're angry. How dare they do that? You know, what on earth is going on? That's our ending part. And then we go down into this neutral zone, and it's an awful part to be in, but we have to sit in there. And the neutral zone is where we just feel like nothing's happening. No, I can't get my finances sorted. I don't know who to call to get my HR fixed. I don't know what's going with this. Anyone felt those things lately? Well, over the past quite a long time. Where do I go? There's nothing there that will help me get where I need to get to. And that's that neutral zone where it's quite painful. And we don't want to be there. And it's every part of us wants to jump out of that and get into the new beginning. I'm a person that loves new ideas. And I have to make myself sit in this neutral zone and say, yes, it is ugly. Yes, it is painful, but the bright new day is coming. You do get out of the pothole in the end. Well, maybe, but you will crash, Carol. So many times in the Salvation Army we have endings, we have changes, that happens. And I mean, for 20 years we've been watching changes happen. But we seem to want to move out of the emotion and pain and get to the new beginning. And lately there's been so much change and restructure, there's a whole stack of unended endings. There's a whole lot of things that we haven't acknowledged. You know, this is over now. We've lost something. We need to grieve and say it's different now. You know, it's different. I used to send my form in to get my holidays approved. And then I had to go online. You know how hard that was for me? Going online was hard, and then the programs change, and this and that changes, and poor Mark and Fran get my messages all the time. I don't know how to do this, and you know, bless these guys because they help us so much, don't they? They fix things, they advocate for us, and I just want to honour you guys today because what you do, the decisions you make to help us, I don't know whether they're intuitive or whether actually you're following a plan or something, but what you do is very helpful. Your care, your concern, your support and your advocacy is just amazing. So I just want to thank you today for being you. So before we can get through change, we need to let go. And that's the grief and loss part. That's the letting go and saying that's not going to be the same again. And I hate those words because if something's not broken, don't try and fix it, don't change it. But some things are broken, and at the moment with the COVID restrictions, I feel that things are really broken in terms of trying to meet together and do things like that. But I have to let go. I have to say, you know what? I don't know what it's going to look like, but I need to follow my values in what's going to happen next. So, practical, I'm really big on practical. In the letting go part, communication is so important. It's just crucial. If you can say it 15 ways, it's probably still not enough. So, if you need to communicate with your people, with your teams, newsletters, Facebook, mail, talk to them face to face, there's 3 million ways we need to say the same thing over and over again to help people understand what's changing. Okay, the communication that comes down has been pretty good. Sometimes we've had some great whys, painting a picture of what needs to look like in the future and showing a purpose for change. So if we get those things, we kind of go, all right, well, it needs to change. I can get on board with that. Last year, a decision was made to pause the school that we were running at Berkeley Vale, which was a big thing for us because we've been running it for a long time. And we had to very deliberately go through this process, not just with the people on site with us, but with all the people that are connected with the school, at Longevity, the past students, and be very, very clear in our communication, be very clear as much as we knew we were sending out and saying, this is what the decision is, this is what it's going to look like, this is how it will look in the future, and this is where the line's going to be. And disappointingly, when we were first told what was going to happen, we were told that we weren't to have a final celebration, which totally went against everything that we believe. And we did a fair bit of negotiating, and we were allowed to have a celebration at the end of last year and just finalise. This is the end of what it looks like right now. What happens next is out of our control, but what we choose to do is that we'll have an ending so people can have that funeral or wake kind of a sense. And I mean, that needs to happen whenever we're leaving something, is we need to have that, you know, this is the ending. Let's celebrate the things that were fantastic, let's acknowledge the things that weren't great, and let's say goodbye to it and do it well. And then we can walk into the future without our hearts being heavy or hard. And over the years, I've watched people just get more and more hardened because of the pain that's been there in the changes that haven't been worked through. The neutral zone, that's that bottom bit of the pothole. Neutral zone is kind of like the Israelites wandering around in the wilderness. They've left the promised land and they're in this wilderness and they're wandering. Is that God? They're wandering around in the wilderness and they had to stay in the wilderness until they all died off. The only people that went in, you're only a couple of people that went into the new land. The rest had to stay. And the new had to be made. They had to leave the old. It's important to understand the neutral zone because we will want to rush through it. It's okay to not be productive because that's what the neutral zone looks like. A lot of this year I've walked around going, I feel so busy and I feel like I've got nothing done. I feel like I'm doing all this stuff and I'm not getting anywhere. That's normal neutral zone stuff. So if you sense yourself in that, that's okay. In neutral zone, there's chaos, confusion, insecurity, and apprehension. And if we don't do our transition well, we take people out of Egypt, but we don't get them to the promised land. We kind of leave them in this, and that's when people leave because it just gets too uncomfortable and painful to stay. So what do we do for ourselves in the neutral zone? That's what Dan was talking about. We care for ourselves. We give ourselves space, time out, retreat from the chaos of that zone. Deliberately construct short-range goals. So focus on reaching the goals and record them, celebrate them as you get to the goals. And it reminds you that you're still getting stuff done. So take time to process new information as it comes and what it means. Journal, talk to people, and ask questions as you need to. So how do we help our people move through this zone? How do we help our people? That's where we're setting our short-range goals for people and celebrating with them. Help them not to be discouraged. Nothing seems to be happening in the neutral zone most of the time. We need to help people have a sense of purpose. And it's okay to expect that not a lot will get done. Okay, so do the things that are most important. We need to clarify our mission. So if you were looking at this diagram, I've got a really small one here. Of this pothole that you can all grab later if you'd like. The ending, that's the neutral zone, and this is the new beginning. I just want you to just look at it for a moment. The words to do with the ending is shock, anger, denial, fearful, sad. This neutral zone is confused, disorientated, frustrated, skeptical and apathetic. And the new beginning is excited, energised and committed. So you've got those words all in your head. Can you kind of get a sense of where you might be in that right now? It could be with work, COVID, whatever it is, where you might be sitting. Because it's a good indicator of where you need to go in the future. Sorry guys, have you got an idea what that means if you can't see that far? Ending, neutral zone, new beginning. Just want to turn to the person next to you just for 5 minutes and just talk, just say which zone you think you're in and what that's like. All right, if I can get you to finish up. Okay. Were you able to identify where you fitted? Is that good? So just a note there, just because you might be in that particular spot on your transition doesn't mean that everyone else is. And usually leaders are further ahead than what their people are, what their teams are. So you might be all for the transition, all for the change and in your new beginning, but there might be still people sitting in their ending and really sad about what's going on. That's really good to identify that you're always going to have people on different parts of that line. And I mean, you might not be ready to go into the new beginning and someone else might be. You might have people in your team or core that really want you to do something and you're like, no, we're not ready. That's good to identify as well. So we need to acknowledge and grieve what's changing and what we're losing. We need to wander in no man's land in the neutral zone. And we need to keep our hearts from getting hard by working through our pain and emotions. I really want to encourage everyone to get connected with someone for supervision. It's essential in ministry. I have found it essential in ministry, and I've been going since, 18 years. Imagine what I would be like if I didn't have it. Wow. As well as supervision, it's good to have a team of support, of friends that you can unload to, other people, whether you have spiritual director or counsellor or whatever it is. But it's good to have a whole group of people caring for you. That's helped our transitions be a lot easier, knowing that we've got people on our side when it feels like the whole world's against us. That's been helpful. Okay, so this is one handout that I've got. One's a transition strategy that we put together for Westlake. So I've taken a lot of dates and whatever out, but it's just kind of a plan that we had to help people transition in the 3 months it takes to move appointments. So just be acknowledging that what that's like for people. There's the Bridges transition model and some words. And this is expect and accept the signs of grieving. So what happens when you hear people bargaining or having anxiety or all those kind of things. And this other one is really good for my humility because it's got mistakes in it. But I did it really late last night and I wasn't going back to the office after 11. So it's on the second page. You'll find them. Sorry. But this is a checklist. So each page has got each stage in that process. So in the ending, have I publicly expressed my own sense of loss if I felt any? Like just things like that if we're going through that first stage. In the neutral zone, have I set short-range goals for people? And then in the new beginnings, am I watching my own actions to be sure I'm modelling the attitudes and behaviours I'm asking others to develop right now? So that's helpful. If you want it, you're welcome to it. That's me done. Thank you.